Welcome back to another GameMaker Studio tutorial, and this time with a segmented enemy like the one I showed you in the last tutorial. But this time, the code is kind of similar, but a few more additions are here necessary to make this, movement happen. And what do you see is basically just this head, and then it duplicates downward and makes copy of itself, and with a little delay. So everything seems to be like one part, and then you have like this kind of snake-like movement. This is One Up Indie. I am the developer of the indie game Clunky and a programmer / pixel artist. So if you're new here and you want more, consider subscribing to my channel because I upload every 2 days a video. So let's get right into the good stuff, how we can actually make this dude happen. And I just have for now an idle face, which I just use for the head, and then I have the body, which is just like this, and this is just one. And then I just place him into the room, so you can see it's just one thing, and then he goes downwards, but he doesn't have really like any gravity or anything pulling it down. It's just statically going from left to the right. So what do we need? First of all, there are a few things which are similar like in the last video if you watched it, but now there are a few additions. And the first one is, there are a few things which I did in the last video. So basically I have my parts and then just create one, then decrease the number, and if the number is 0, don't create a following part. And then we just store these IDs, and then we just store the ID of the predecessor so it can adapt to the other position of its predecessor. So the movement is kind of locked, but this time a little bit different. And then of course we have to do a check in the step event once and create a new one if we still have a part left to do. And then here is the new stuff. So basically, first of all, I do an ease function. Yes, again an ease function. And this time I just do it for wiggling from the left to the right. That's why I have just a little range between minus 1.5 and 1.5 in a duration of 2 seconds. So we have a movement from left to the right like this. And I store that in in my variable which I call move. And then a little thing which we need for the step movement is a parameter which I call startx, and that is the X position at the start. So for example, if you would do not this, for example, we create one and then we have a delay, and then the next one is here, the next one is here, and they're pretty much disjointed. That's why I need this parameter, so they are nicely on this position, and then they can wiggle around it. That's why the start X position is quite important. Then I have a variable which I call real movement, but that is just like, let's say, X++, so just go to the right. So this is an additional thing which I'm going to show you in the step event. And then I have a variable which I call start easing, because I want to start my easing function after a delay, so it comes naturally. And then when, for example, I start, you will see then one pops up, then the other one pops up, and then they just start easing at some point. And that's why you have this snake-like movement. And the last thing is I put an alarm at the start, and once the alarm runs down, so after half a second it runs down, then I do a start check, and that start check is part of the step event. And then we will do with this delay start checking if we want to create another clone of the snake thingy. Did I not copy the right one? Hello? Okay, that is interesting. Here we go. That's strange. The editor is bugging. I don't know why that is happening. It happened already twice, but never mind me here. So what do we have? First of all, an ease function once again, and then I just have this move variable which I use. And then we have two parts, which is for now one which is not following, so I set it to false because that's the head. He doesn't follow anything, he just does his movement, and it consists of a start position, which we stored at the very beginning in the create event, right here. Then the move thing, so this is the one between minus 1.5 to 1.5, so it has start position, then it goes left and right, and then it would be locked in one position. But for example, if you wanted to do an extra movement, which I put just in here, you can see that it all works in conjunction. Then, for example, I just give it some plus value, so basically it will just wiggle plus this little movement, so it will just go to the right. Depending what kind of value you use here, it will move to the right or to the left and so on. And now we come to the children, so to say, of this, or the clones of this cactus, so the body, and they will just be, they have a follow which is true, and there we just take its X position and change it to the ID of its predecessor, which I'm going to show you in the very bottom, but if you watch my last video, it's basically the same. And here again we just use the move for the wiggling part from the ease function. And then of course we can flip the X scale and Y scale. No, I just flip the X scale here, and so it appears a little bit more than that, but you don't have to do that if you don't like to. And here we come to the more interesting part, because here we create those little clones of that thing. And so basically, once our start checking is set to true, and that is being set once the alarm runs down. So once, to recap, the alarm runs down, the alarm 0, then I just set my alarm, and then I say, alright, you can start check if you want to have to create a new clone. And once we do that, we also say, let's start the easing, because my easing is not starting from the very beginning. It's just on hold, and once, for example, the alarm ticks it off. So basically we flip two things. First of all, the easing is starting, and second of all, it starts to make a check if we want to create another clone. And that is just here if we have a tail part left, and then we just create once because we want to create it once. And then if we say, alright, we created it once, this script is gonna get done once if we have more than one part left. And then we take one part away, and then we create a new cactus, which is this dude here again. And this one we create with a difference on, for example, let's say 14 pixels, because let's go in here, my sprite is 16 by 16, and I want to change it, let's say directly under it, not just with some space in between. That's why I put 40. And as you can see, the last code we manipulated the X and the Y value. Here we wanted to stay on a fixed Y scale, so that we don't change, we just change the X value. So we have this wiggling, let's say on a rail, so to speak. And that's why we just change the X value depending if we are following or not following. So for the head and for the body. And here, basically the same stuff. We just say, alrighty, we create a new clone, and the clone takes the rest parts, which are just leftovers. Then we say we want to follow, because the first part is not following, the others are following. And then we take the ID and store it and follow this ID. And this follow ID is then basically linked here, so we are just following our predecessor with its X position and with the move. So that's why you have this wiggling here. And then of course we want to change the sprite, so that's why because we want to use first just the head and then the body, and then of course you can change it to you. As you can see, one after another is popping up, and then I zoom now, I count, everything is working in conjunction and is, for example, moving to the right side. And that was basically it. Hopefully that was of interest to you. Have a good one. One up indie.